Hello, and thank you for joining us on Hello, Mayor. I'm City of Las Vegas Mayor Carolyn Goodman. Dr. Keith Whitfield became the 11th president of UNLV in August of 2020. He hails from academic and administrative roles at Wayne State University in Michigan and Duke University in Durham, North Carolina. And how lucky for us, he joins us now to discuss more about his background, the future of UNLV, and so much more. What a delight, and welcome, Dr. Whitfield. This is so exciting to have you here. And here's UNLV, and I don't know if our cameras can show, but I want everybody to know he's got UNLV sneakers and socks, wristwatch, pin and tie. You are the man.
I get quite comfortable in rebel gear. It feels good.
Tell us a little bit about, were you born in Michigan, born and raised there?
I was not born and raised there. Actually, I was born in Japan. My father was in the military.
Oh, wow.
And right after I was born, he actually got the opportunity to be able to go back to school and become an officer. So he left Japan and went to the University of Colorado Boulder, and that's where he got his degree and became an officer. And then we traveled around to, hang on to this, from Colorado to Michigan, Virginia, Colorado, Alabama, Illinois. I graduated high school in Illinois, went to school in Santa Fe, New Mexico, went to school in Lubbock, Texas.
Oh my
and then taught in Louisiana, went back to school in Colorado, did my first real position at Penn State, then went to University of North Carolina, went back to Penn State, then went to Duke, then went to Wayne State, and now here.
Oh, well, I hope you stay here longer than just
I've
years, for heaven's sakes.
I've thrown all my boxes away.
Oh,
so I'm planning on staying.
And let's have the key to the car, please. Okay. You know what I've learned with our military families is the children are always so relaxed because they make friends, they have to pick up and leave and move somewhere else. So was that hard on you as a child, going from school to school to school, or it just was and you did it?
It's kind of what we knew of, but you know, different kids and different families have issues with that. I never did. My parents used to always say, you know, Keith, you're pretty good at making friends. You hop on your bike the first day, you drive around for 2 or 3 hours, and you come back with 4 or 5 friends. And so that was my MO for the most part.
Did you have any siblings, or do you have siblings?
Yes, I do. I have an older brother, and a younger sister.
Uh-oh, killer with a younger sister, spoiled rotten, I'm sure.
Spoiled rotten.
But that's beautiful. Now tell us, your educational interests, was it just something that developed? I know you had a psych background. You're very definitely a people person, so no wonder we love you here. But where did that develop to go into education?
Well, it's so interesting because my formal academic training is in studying gerontology and aging. Oh. And that came from seeing my grandfather, actually even looking at health and cognition. My grandfather, you know, passed away very suddenly, didn't really see anything. I think it was something that caught my attention and made me actually go in that direction. And, you know, 30 years later, I've been studying aging in African Americans.
Isn't that fascinating? And you know, I mean, today, because us older folk, are living so much longer. Yes. Back in the day, we were dying in the 40s and 50s. Today, we're in our 80s, 90s, and many into the hundreds.
And that's what I've been studying. Actually, my last research project that I'm working on the side, is looking at longevity and looking at the cues and the different factors that contribute to our longevity.
We have to have you back because I have questions that are tipping my brain, and I do know from having had so many older relatives over the years that the more active you stay, the more this is working, the more the rest of the body is following, and so how important and the other thing is too, is the site of the most senior people in a culture usually gets the highest praise, is the tip of the iceberg, and so we'll have you back for that. So let's talk about some things coming up right away. Let's brag a little bit. You have graduation for?
Yes, we do. We have our graduate students graduate Friday, and then we have 2 sessions for our undergraduates on Saturday, for a total of over 3,500 graduates.
Wow, is that one of our larger classes, or?
It is one of our larger classes, not the largest, but one of our larger classes.
And are they being held all at Thomas and Mack?
Yes,
or?
ma'am. Perfect place to have it.
Well, of course, our pride and joy. But I do remember the days when it was in the Rotunda Convention Center or on site, whatever we could do. So this is graduate school first. So how many graduate school programs are they that go through to a graduation degree, a graduate degree?
How many graduate programs do we have?
Yeah, I know you have Boyd. We have the Kirk-Kerkorian, which we've already graduated our first class. Are we graduating our second?
Our Kirk-Kerkorian, we just graduated our third class.
Wow.
Time is flying, and
my goodness.
it's 60 each one, so there's 180 so far,
Isn't that
all being placed in residency too. I feel like it's unheard of to have 100% residency placement. They're doing great work.
Well, and we hope they stay here, and that conversation maybe we can get back to. I know UNLV really took root because of the hospitality.
Yes.
Hotel administration, only equaled and maybe not equaled by Cornell in Michigan, as a matter of fact.
Not equal, Bob.
Not
We're number one, not only in the country, actually one of the rankings puts us number one in the world in hospitality and management. It's that school, actually that's how I first came to know UNLV, was that I was at Penn State. And Penn State's hospitality program was always saying, we got to knock off UNLV. I was like, what is this UNLV? And that's how I was introduced to it. And that was, had to be 20 years ago.
Now, I know before we began the program, I had a chance to chat with this gentleman, and we talked about, you were provost at Wayne State University. Could you describe, first of all, what is a provost, and then at Wayne State in particular, what were some of the challenging issues with which you dealt?
Well, it's so interesting. So provost is a chief academic officer, and some believe that that title, that word, even comes from nautical times from long time ago. And there's some description, some difference of opinion about where it actually comes from. But that's what they are. They're the chief academic officer. They oversee the deans, they oversee student affairs, they oversee lots of different operations at a university. And so it's someone who works hand in hand with the president to be able to execute his vision from the next level down.
And would this include, now that we're at UNLV and you are no longer, we must have a provost or several?
We have one provost.
One. Only
Executive Vice President Provost Chris Heavey.
Okay. The programs, would that be over both graduate school programs and undergraduate?
The entire university, all of the programs, because sometimes that's centers, sometimes that's other entities that are there. If it's something that falls under the academic mission of the university, the provost is very heavily in charge or involved.
And how many years were you provost at Wayne State?
4 years.
4. And so you had a vision, I'm sure, when you came in. And I know, as in any job, you have to see what's happening, where's the water level. But once you've done that, maybe at the end of your second and going into your third year, you have aspirations, you have ideas. Was there anything in particular that you focused on that you want to make sure that we're at that level here?
Yeah, it's so interesting because we did a couple of fairly, let's call them innovative, let's call them cutting edge sorts of things. One of the things that we created, and I'm going to say this and then I'm going to get a ton of people ask me, why can't we do it here? But it was difficult because we broke the business model. We actually, for the people who are the citizens of Detroit, we actually gave free tuition to the students who were graduating. I can't remember, it was either 2018, 2019.
Wow. And
to give them free tuition to try to encourage them. And it was just a way to try to increase the number of college-going students. So we did that. So affordability is a big issue. It's fascinating. I mean, that's an urban research university. We're an urban research university. It was about affordability. It was about access. And it's about experiential learning.
Why not us?
Why not us?
No, and where do you, I mean, for everything, we have so many people that come here because they believe in a concept and want to try to implement a change or do something or improve upon something. The question when they come in with these ideas, always to the mayor's office and my husband's office before me, how do you afford this? Where's the money? just in a brief nutshell, was that a special fund, a special tax? Was that state authorized? How did you manage that?
Yeah, we had a lot of plotting and planning and actually looked at the pattern of how our students were actually being funded and figured, we could take institutional scholarships, which we had a good number of scholarships, and we could kind of backfill those. And it ends up being, too, we had a lot of students who had needs, so they had a lot of federal funding and federal dollars, and then state dollars, and then other scholarships. And so then there was a little piece missing, but it's much smaller than you think. And so you're able to say, if we can qualify you, we can figure out a way so that
And is the student matriculated? Were you able to keep funding them, or was that just an entry first level year?
That's one of the scary things, was that when I left, it doesn't follow the normal business model. That's not how you usually do things. And so I worked with our CFO at the time and figured out a way that we were going to be able to stay cash neutral or income neutral and just adjust some things.
Because our students here, I know so many would love to go out of state and go to a private university or college. The price, to say nothing of traveling and getting there and housing additionally to the tuition. The beauty is here, our programs have grown so over the years, and the research model that is added at the graduate level, if they're lucky enough to continue on, it's a wonderful, wonderful program, and more, obviously because of Kerkorian, because of the Boyd School of Law, our engineering school's doing pretty well, is it not?
Maybe 10 years ago there was about 1,000 students in engineering, now there's 3. Dean Rama Venkat has just really taken that college and its prominence and hired incredible faculty.
That's the key.
When you think about it, so hospitality is one of our big shiny programs. So is Boyd School of Law, 20 years, and we're the only law school in the state, but they're nationally ranked. And then it's, what is the third one? I always ask, what's the third one? And it's between a bunch of programs. Engineering was one of them. I think education is doing very well. We have some in our liberal arts that are doing very well. All of our programs are gaining in stature over time because it is that we have incredible faculty and they're doing great things.
To me, that is the key. I've always believed, and you can go back to your elementary years if you stayed long enough to have the relationship, but any one of us can think back. Who influenced you? And it's usually in lower school, maybe a high school teacher because you were career-minded by then. But usually lower school, same formula. And you would have gone to school over the holidays, Saturdays and Sundays, because they were wonderful. And a weak teacher, you could be in the White House and you wouldn't go. And so, the reality, it's all in the teachers. Do you have input in that, or do you have enough time? I know you're pulled in 1,000 directions. Do you have input in bringing faculty here or having the opportunity to evaluate?
I get a chance to every now and then. It is fun because it's part of the lifeblood of a university, really is the faculty. The faculty are the touch points for the students, the faculty are the touch points in terms of doing research, so they're always critical. So every now and then, particularly because I'm president, but I'm still an active researcher, actually. I do know people in the field. There was recently someone who we have recruited here who I had mentored, 15 years ago. And it was so funny, they recruited her and they said, kind of when they were on doing the final piece, they said, oh, and by the way, you might know so-and-so. And I went, yeah, I know them. And so I got a chance to meet them. But that's done at such a departmental level because they know who the really good ones are. They know the kinds of things to ask and to look for in superstar faculty. And so it happens there. But I try to stick my nose in and more than anything else, try to help. It's try to say a whole university is behind wanting to have you as a superstar faculty to come here. And so every now and then I get a chance to do that.
And I think, though, in the leadership role that you have, and because of the uniqueness of Las Vegas, the more you can have the opportunity to have your faculty hear you, be with you, Q&A you. I don't even know anymore the size of your faculty, both undergraduate and graduate.
Yeah. And you know, so funny because I get numbers with staff as well, because we have lots of different levels of folks that do,
Right.
you know, you can't forget the staff. Our support services are absolutely crucial, but it's around 4,500 when you put all of those pieces together. And so with our students at just short of 31,000, you know, you're at a small city. You know, it's not Las Vegas, but it's about 35,000.
And two, so many of the students that go there, undergrad and especially graduate school, are day students come in. I know you have night classes, but mostly day students. So the reality is noticed a great deal of dormitory building that went on. I don't know how many you have actually able to live on campus that maybe come in from out of state in particular, or those who want to get away from their parents and be grown up. The reality is, do we have a hefty and popular Greek system, and are they resident Greek system, or is it a relatively small number?
It's medium sized. We have a good Greek system. It's interesting too, because they, I think, reflect what the Greek system was meant to be and when it started, which was really leadership. And so we see a lot of our Greek organizations, particularly the people in them, actually be leaders in other organizations and other things on campus. It is a piece of student life that's at UNLV. In terms of housing, you know, it's interesting. We have about 1,800 beds on campus. And then when you look across and around our campus, it gets up to about 5,700. And we have different relationships with them. Sometimes it's very deep, sometimes it's a little superficial. And that's one of the things I'm hoping we can do in the future, is get it so that that student life piece is better connected to all the kinds of things that we plan on the university
And
campus.
it's the experience, you know, because we've had the Runnin' Rebels back in the 90s, and not that they're not here, but that is one of the ways to collect everybody's energy. But our theater program, all the things, your music program, all the softer extracurricular, any particular philosophy there that you are, and how, I mean, in a general way, are you pulling the kids together, and the graduate students, but mostly the undergraduates, to give them a feeling of belonging to a great program?
Boy, that's one of the key things, actually, even for student success. I consider myself aspire to be a student success president. And so it's all about trying to make sure that students have everything that they need. And one of the things that they need for success, a lot of times, is feeling a sense of belonging, of knowing that you know somebody there who you can ask questions of, that you feel connected with. Everybody has difficult times. And if you feel connected to someone on campus, connected to campus, there's a greater likelihood that you'll be able to make it through that difficult situation and get to the other side. It's one of the key things in the kind of the study of student success that's very critical. So to your point, one of the things we're trying to do is to increase and encourage students to come out to all of our sporting games, to feel that sense of rebel pride that you have with sports. But the other piece of it is that we're doing, you mentioned it, co-curricular activities. Like we have the Troche Center has a student competition. We just held a President's Innovation Challenge, where it's just about students getting together, working in interdisciplinary groups. And this year, for example, it was on sustainability, trying to figure out ways in which we can help Las Vegas be more sustainable. And our students are just absolute rock stars. It's amazing because we don't see them that way. We don't see UNLV that way. But if you see some of our outstanding students, and we have so many of them, we're actually honoring 10 across our graduations. We used to want to try to do 3 or 4, and we just couldn't reduce it to that many because we had so many great students.
Well, and when you look at what's happening in technology, and you look at the concepts, and it all comes from the youth. I mean, even starting at 2, if you're on an airplane, you'll see a 2-year-old with a little somebody's cell phone to keep quiet.
Yep.
Right. Technology has moved so far ahead of what was, and of course we have no idea what's coming, and AI, and a little scary. What is UNLV focusing on, and where are those funds coming from? Or are we going to start printing out at UNLV? I've been hoping here at the city we'd start making our own money, because the funds are not there at this point.
Maybe we need to do the same with UNLV. Some red and gray printed $100 bills might go a long way.
I love it. Go. This is Vegas.
Yeah. No, you know, higher ed is always challenged. There has been, I think Nevada has stayed relatively flat relative to its funding, but we're one of the lowest in terms of funding higher education in the country. And so
Wow.
I think all of us, all of our 8 institutions within the NSHE system basically do what I say is make a dollar out of 15 cents.
Wow.
Is that if we had more, it's, sometimes people feel like, oh, it's higher education, is that a good use of our money? But higher education, and particularly research institutions,
Yes.
help in a lot of different ways. We're thinking about economic diversification here. That's what makes sure that you have an educated workforce, a highly educated workforce, which brings more companies in, as well as being a place where, because they can work with researchers, because we can be, like at our research park, the Harry Reid Research and Technology Park, we're a place where really cool things can happen, as well as those companies want to be next to each other and kind of hear and see what's going on and get that sense of innovation. And so we can create an environment, and we have out at the Harry Research Park, Bo Bernhardt in particular, my VP for Economic Development, we're developing a culture of that. So that will bring in other companies that will want to come and to help diversify our economy.
Well, and two, you have to go down and backwards to get the students ready in the high schools to be able to step in at the university level.
You are.
How are you seeing that? I know we have issues in the public school system, and to me, if something seems to be broken, fix it.
Yeah.
Don't try to make other things happen. Work on what you have already invested in and make it work. What are you seeing? I mean, I know COVID really has impacted children everywhere, but in particular, what are you seeing in the students' readiness to come into UNLV, or are you not in a position to be able to answer that?
I'd say part of it is my background in psychology that makes me focus on it, but it's the mental health piece of it that I'm worried about more than anything else. I call them, the 4 problematic things. It's stress, anxiety, depression, isolation, and loneliness. Those different factors that people experience actually hurt student success. They hurt social development. They hurt some of the social interactions that we've seen in our school system. All of those things drive it. Even eating disorders now is being tied to particularly isolation and loneliness. And so those are the things that we're seeing in younger people. So it is, you're spot on. It is absolutely critical that we create a pipeline that's not just a K through 12, but a K through 20.
Yes.
So that, and not everybody really aspires to or wants to go to college, but we need to make it so that everybody who has an interest can do that. And part of the way that UNLV is going to help, and it has been helping, is actually through summer programs. Dual enrollment is talked about a lot, and dual enrollment is fantastic. It's an opportunity for students to kind of cut down in some ways on how long it takes them to get through school, because they get credits early.
Yes.
But the other piece that I want to see is even more students going to college. We've got incredible community colleges within this state.
And wonderful leadership in them.
Absolutely, this is a time when we have great leaders at those universities.
Stars are aligned, really.
Stars are aligned, and so we have to, and we've been trying to figure out ways that we can even work together on things, because sometimes we've worked in silos and that's not as good. But part of the piece that I think all of us are trying to do is to be able to work with the K through 12 systems wherever we are, whether we're up in the north or down in the south, and say, let us figure out how we can help you. Maybe we can try to deal with some of your issues as a collective rather than just the K through 12 system trying to do it. And I think Superintendent Jara has been open to that. And that's helped, because if we can, for example, bring kids onto our campus for summer, get them excited so that when they go back to school, they actually are helping the teacher in a way, because they're so ready to learn, because they have been engaged in things that weren't just the reading, writing, arithmetic. It's these other kind of co-curricular activities, building robots. We've got a fantastic nursing summer program. There's lots of things to get kids excited about throughout the year, and then they can make that decision about how their paths go in a much more informed way, because they've experienced it.
Can you work, or are you working with the graduate school programs as well? I know we have a dental school. So high school students over the summer, what comes to mind immediately is, how do I get my child there if I can't drive and I have to work? That's a piece, but I know the school district has a very large bus system, and certainly the RTC maybe can discount passes or something, but that juniors and seniors in high school can have that opportunity over the summer, maybe for some smaller internship program or something. It's so difficult for parents here who have high school students to have them, especially if they're inspired or need inspiration, to get involved with a pathway to something other than their cell phone and game playing.
No, you you sound just like me. I say the exact same thing, is that we have to think about some of the structural things that keep people from doing it. We want to build the programs first, and kind of once you build it, they will come, hopefully, but we've got to address some of those additional issues. And one of the things, even once the students get to our campus, you know, we don't have a bunch of rich students. They actually need to work. A lot of them work as they go to school. So then to have those extra co-curricular activities, like an internship, they need to be paid internships. And so we've got so many generous people in the community that are offering those opportunities, and they do understand that they need to be paid internships, and that helps. But to your point of moving it down so that we figure out ways in which we can help those juniors and seniors who are navigating transportation issues, financial issues, those are the things that we need to start trying to figure out a way to build in. And UNLV is going to be a piece of the solution, but I think we need all of our community partners, the K through 12 system, I think businesses and industry, to work together to be able to address some of those issues.
Well, and I know so much of the time we all rely on the data we've collected to warrant being able to fund something, and UNLV, especially those who've been helping us with data over the years, and different programs that you have that come in and help us in the city. I'm sure you help in county and in the other municipalities as well. But I see so many different ways that the total involvement of the community with the university needs to step up. Private investment, private assurance that our youth is going further forward and better. The summer programs we really do see, and that collegiality that you establish with other families, other students, were going forward. And I don't even know, do you have programs, which I can see we're already running out of time here, but I'd love to set an agenda and maybe discuss them. Let me be quiet, which is very hard, I'm very sorry. Plans for the future.
Plans for the future. You know, part of our plan is to be able to, as we're growing in the next, let's call it 10, 20 years, is to be on the other side of Maryland Parkway, to expand that way. We need more research space, we need more teaching space, and so those are going to be critical features. One of the issues kind of that you brought up was relative to kind of those young people and how their parents actually can navigate being able to work and have a family and maybe go to school. Our early childhood education center is something that we're hoping to be able to build and expand. We want to build a new business building. You know, business has to be good in this city for us to be able to survive, and having an educational partner that has an outstanding business program, business college like we do, they need a new place, and so we're looking to build there too. So, and tons of other things. Just keep an eye on us. There's a thing called Rebel Impact. It's a newsletter that we have. That's a nice little quick blurb to just kind of get caught up. But we work as your urban research university. We're your university and the community's university, to be able to actually fill in all the things that we need to continue to grow and prosper.
And so much of it is done. Our university is the home to teaching our teachers, and so that is such a rich, rich program there. There's so much to do, and I don't even know where to ask you. If they have a point, just go online and check out UNLV. But I have to thank you at home for watching us again, and make sure that you never miss any episode. Just scan your QR code on your screen, or this screen, to subscribe to our newsletter. And we'll see you next time for another episode of Hello Mayor. And this is the best. He is the best. Thank you, Dr. Whitfield, UNLV president. We're so lucky.